Now we are live.
Now we're live.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi. I'm today having actually um, Dr. Astrid Scholz. You have a PhD, right?
That's right.
So yes, and we are going to discuss again her chapter in AI everywhere. AI for good, whether and how to use when you are in the business of making the world better, which is something we are all, like especially with women, we are all considering ethics is something we lack or we don't see or how to handle it with AI. And today, Dr. Astrid will help us with it. So, Dr. Astrid, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And by the way, your camera is still a little bit funny. Like
Yes,
your
I
face. Oh,
know,
there it
and
is.
it's like
There.
it's like I don't know. It's just really bad.
There you go. Now
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
see
yeah.
you.
I hope it
So
stays.
it's so I am a German now naturalized in the US, living here in Portland, Oregon, coming to you from my front porch. I may have to move my chair. I'm getting this like halo effect here a little bit. And I am a recovering nonprofit executive turned serial systems change entrepreneur. I have a technology company that I co-founded. I have a movement organization that I co-founded and also do narrative intervention work with a new partnership that I co-created. So I work in multiple ways looking to make the world better. And technology happens to be one of them. And so that's how I find myself with big opinions about AI.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, your chapter, you touch a very important point, especially with non-profit. So you mentioned the skeptical optimist. You open your chapter saying, really, 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 like you are really repeating it. Want AI work for good? Why you want to insist actually that to push AI to be only for the good?
Yeah. And well, the short answer is I have organized my entire life around making the world a better place and making it safe for our children and making it safe, for all of us to live well here on this planet. And so whenever there is new technology, my very strong bias is that it should work for us. It should work for people and planet. I felt that way about cloud computing, 10, 12 years ago, and I feel the same way about, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the early days of the internet, for crying out loud. So I felt this way about modern technology, whatever the modern technology is
Yeah.
at the time.
It is true actually, because some people we have as you mentioned the poly crisis, we believe that it's like AI is not had inclusion. There is a lot, and it's only a woman voice. We don't see any men talking about ethics. It's like you can see all the men is like the fight now from OpenAI or Anthropics. You can see that we are totally muted. Like our voice is not heard. So we need to make, I don't know if we
Yeah.
should make it louder or we should make it like what we should do so you can listen to many of the women. And there is, or I think there is a petition happen, not to stop AI, but it's actually to have more inclusion, to be more fairer, to be more ethical.
Yeah,
You
I think,
mentioned,
I mean, mm,
okay, no,
sorry.
no,
Well,
sorry,
I
you
mean,
were,
I feel that way about any profession, right? Like I'm trained as an economist, and here in the United States, the American Association of Economists, the big like the trade association, the big professional association, they did not have a standard of ethics as economists, right? So I feel like in medicine, right, there's a Hippocratic oath. Oh, your face has disappeared again.
yeah.
I see your forehead. um, we have. I mean, as a doctor, right, like as a medical doctor, your first obligation is to do no harm, and I feel like any profession and technology should have the same standard.
I totally agree. You mentioned actually the Watson caution retail, because people doesn't
Yes,
understand what happened with Watson. IBM spent lots of money, millions and billions of dollars,
billions.
and they made the first system that tried to make it the legal assistant, the doctor assistant, and they failed uh, massively. And they had the courage to turn it off. to cancel the whole
Mhm.
program because they know and they have the best engineering, the best ethics. They try to do the best, and still they fail, and they admit it and turn it off and close the bleed. You mentioned this as a cautionary tale. Would you elaborate on this one?
Well, yeah, and I don't want to recite the whole history of IBM Watson. Just to say that I had an opportunity to work with that team about 10 years ago when we were just beginning the development of the tech platform that I co-founded, Armillaria. And I mean, just to give context, I was interested in using machine learning and AI, right, writ large, 10 years ago to help make sense of the body of knowledge in across the world about how people are making their places, their communities better, right? So the basic idea was there are people all over the world working on social and environmental and other solutions, right, to make the places where they live better. And in that industry, people don't write down recipes, right? They make shiny fancy reports, but they don't actually ever write down the recipe. And so my question to the Watson team was, if you can take the if you can take the knowledge of the world about everything, right? And even if you could constrain it and say, just look at all the things that people who are working in nonprofits and social enterprises, how they talk about the work they do. Could your technology, could AI, the way it was configured then, actually help distill the recipes? That was the question we were examining, right?
Okay.
Because without the structured information of how things work, we can't do it, right? Like if
If
you have a
you
great chocolate cake, right? If you have a great chocolate cake and you tell me how popular it was at the party and how many people liked it, well, I want to know your recipe, right? And that ended up the thing that broke the machine. Like it couldn't actually create order out of the chaos.
okay.
And that was the failure. That the cautionary tale is that unless you already have structured data, AI is not going to be that helpful. And my theory is that a lot of the information that we have about how to make the world better, like the practical information, is not particularly well structured.
So, do you believe that AI should be actually tailored in a micro scale to fit whatever the structure that of your business, of someone's business? So it cannot be universal. It has
Mhm.
to be per industry, and this industry should use this. Depends on the culture, depends on the additions they would like to add, or the
Yeah,
abstractions they would like to remove, and it has to be tailored, not in. It's like
yeah.
universal
I,
way.
I yeah, that's the shorthand of what I'm where I'm landing in my chapter is to say I actually don't think that the sort of universal, what is it called, the artificial general intelligence is going to be very useful. I think it's going to be, very it'll like it so you do a better web search. Great.
It,
It's not but
yeah,
where we see it where we s- like I mean it's not very interesting. Like where we see it working today is in domains that have a lot of very structured data. Like
yes.
ironically, that's why the computer engineers themselves are the first job to be obsolete because they work in
But
a very structured way.
But it's actually when it comes to this part with my problem with AI is that they reduce all IT department into coding, but they forgot that IT department is not just coding. Coding is a part. It's actually an execution part, one
Yeah,
one part of the system, but system thinking, how to organize with the legal department, how to organize actually with the marketing and vision and strategy and the stakeholders. There's another layer that it needs not just a human in the loop, not just supervision. It needs direction, someone to steer how the thing is going to be, the output is going. It cannot be generated by AI. So coding, it's a tiny part. Actually, previously we had Stack Overflow, we had GitHub, we have lots of forums that we can discuss. I'm stuck with this one, and this help a lot, not to just to navigate a problem, but how to code better. So
right.
AI is helping in coding, but if you don't know how to read the code, it's gonna be Like, I'm not against people who are using Replit or Lovely or Lovable, but it's like you need to know what the output is. It's like not just with a README file.
Yeah,
No, you need to understand the structure,
yeah,
the design, the function
yeah.
calling.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see this on a very, I mean, there's so much excitement about vibe coding, right? Now everybody can build an app. It's like, let me tell you, not everybody can build an app, right? I mean, I've played with Claude Design and Claude Code, and I know enough to be dangerous, right? Like, I know enough to know that I don't know everything. And like, even with my best instructions, the product that I get out of it is not complete.
Yeah,
Right. And so I have enough self awareness to say, oh, wait a minute, it's not that simple. Right. And so you need more than the human in the loop. You need an expert who can instruct these systems to be useful. And
to
that's
me,
where, I think the simple adoption of it is not actually going to make anybody work faster or better in any
it's true.
domain, including the
Yes,
social good domain.
this is actually so true because there is a lot of marketing hype, and this is will come again with if you refer back to the Watson cautionary tale, because what IBM show accountability and responsibility. We don't see that. Do you see any gap between what's happening right now with the new frontier models as a business, the way they handle it, technology as a business, compared to IBM and Google, for example?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned Google, right? I mean, IBM was able to essentially self-fund, right? When they went into Watson, they had a business culture of deep research, right? Like the most respected people are all called engineers, right? They call them, they have these really funny job titles at IBM where basically you're a senior engineer, you're a engineer, it's like that's the title of veneration. It's not
Yes,
doctor or manager or whatever, lowest chief anything. It's the distinguished engineer, I think, is like one of the highest job grades you can have at IBM, right? And so they self-funded Watson. Google is now old enough and mature enough that they can also essentially self fund their development of AI and how they integrate it into their existing tools, right? So I use a lot of, like, I like Gemini and I like Notebook LM that comes with my Google Workspace. And because you're already a subscriber, you actually have a lot more control over your data, right? Duh, because
exactly.
I'm already paying for it.
Organizational wise.
I'm organization wise. But in contrast, right, like the new organizations, the new entrants in this space are all venture capital funded. And so they have all the classic problems of VC funded startups. They have to hype it so that they can get the next higher valuation, so they can attract more capital in the next
Yes.
round. And that hamster wheel continues until they finally IPO. And so it's that whole, moving fast and breaking things that is getting in the way in the development of these frontier technologies, which is just bizarre. I mean, imagine if we had developed the highway system using venture capital, or if we had developed, I don't know, the International Space Station using venture capital. It's just ludicrous, right? Like you would never approach and or like nuclear weapons for that matter, right? Like these are public infrastructure projects for a reason,
Yeah.
and this is technology that is going to take on this sort of infrastructure functionality, and it's venture funded. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's one of actually of the sad things that, and I wrote a lot about it, that the current technology of AI, not the AI, in the US is steered by greed. And this is why it's going
Yes.
astray. It's like going left and right, and it's like they're going to jump on a cliff.
Yeah.
Not the problem of technology, but it's the business wise. The business wise, the management is not good. Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because that's why you see in Europe, for example, you see now investments into public AI models.
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know and when I did a lot of my spring travel, took me to Europe a number of times this year, and there's a lot of talk about basically sovereign AI and anti-American sort of like building AI in a non-American way, which I thought was very interesting. Like the debate has really shifted into not being bullied into rapid adoption, But instead of saying, no, actually, we're going to build this our own way, thank you very much.
Exactly. I think as you are an economist, you understand that it's like one of the talks that will happen now, the economics of AI, not just the technology, and the sovereignty of it will decide the direction of AI
Yes,
for many countries. Yes.
that's right.
Yes, you mentioned in your book, actually, this will take us in the next point, the fundamental and you distinguish between administrative AI and programmatic AI. One back office workflow like fundraising, and the other is embedded in delivery for social outcome. Why is it a mistake for organization to treat these two type of adoption as the same thing?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, any nonprofit organization, any social enterprise is still a company, right? So
Yes,
you have workflows, you have teams that you have to manage, you are maybe functioning across different time zones, different languages. You have sort of repeatable tasks, right? Like report writing or fundraising, like the bane of the existence of any nonprofit. And so those are the administrative tasks, I would say. And I think that's where AI can be very, very helpful. Like again, we were talking about Google. I was talking to a collaborator the other day, and she said she's a visual learner. And I thought, well, that's great because I can use Notebook LM to make an infographic of the conversation we had. And she's like, oh, this is amazing. This is actually a really good depiction of what I'm imagining. And so it helps me talk with her and it makes our work go a little bit easier, right? Or if you're not an English native speaker, I think the accessibility
yeah,
provided by AI tools is phenomenal. Like when I did my dissertation research, I interviewed hundreds of people. For every hour-long interview, I had to spend 3 to 4 hours transcribing it. And that's before I was able to start doing any kind of synthesis and analysis. And
yeah.
so now to have a robot running alongside and doing the transcription and even translation into another language is super helpful, right? So
That's
that's where
saves time.
incredible, yeah, it saves time. And is it making some people's work obsolete? Yes, right? Because and I wrote about this in on my Substack the other day on my personal AI policy, and I put in a picture of a typing pool. Like back in the 1950s and 60s, there were roomfuls of mostly women in front of typewriters
It's not
writing
typing.
up notes.
I
That's what.
work for the
Yes, we no
yes.
longer
Yeah, I work
we
for
no
the
longer have
UN.
typing pools.
You remind me when I was working for the UN, because we need to send a report and we have to make it in different language. We were sitting just for the translation, and after we translate, we have to proofread and everything because we will need to send the report um, in maximum next day. So I remember we were just sitting typing and even have dictionary next to us just to make sure that this is exactly meaning. We are not missing a culture. We don't miss anything, just to push it. No, it's really, really helpful, but it's just a tool and it's limited. Once you know, actually, you container, you put it. It's like this is what I wanted. It will give you whatever it is, because it's
Yeah.
typically totally mathematical. So it's like for translation, for certain things, for infographic, certain. If you give it the exact desired output, it's gonna generate it properly and will save you time. And this is actually the purpose of AI. But the fact that they want to push it in a form like it's a being, like an assistant, like there is now the hype. I don't know if you heard it. Build your own Jarvis. It's like I don't. Another trend which is going to. I think they are pushing people to make the trial and error for them.
Yeah.
Yes, they can
Yeah,
have it.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I mean, I work with people who are sort of on very different s- parts on sort of the AI adoption curve. And I think actually one of the most valuable things that somebody with our background can provide is here is how to write a prompt in a way that will actually generate useful things.
But
Like
is
for
it?
example,
Yeah.
I have a Claude project. I have a project set up in Claude that I'm basically treating at the project level like a research assistant, like a graduate student research assistant, right? So I've instructed the model to only bring me things published by actual humans with a reference, formatted in the correct style. And oh, by the way, don't just bring me bring me global majority voices. Don't just bring me voices from and research from white men, right? And it actually consistently produces, like for literature review, it consistently produces good results. And I
Okay.
roughly talk to it like I would to a first-year graduate student. Now, again, I'm old enough to actually have supervised first-year graduate students. So I know what I wanted to do and how I
Uh,
wanted to act, right?
and on top of that, you know what you're dealing with. You can draw a distinction between what is and what is not. And there's another point
Right.
that's very important. What is its capacity, what
Well,
it's
yes.
capable of, what it is not. This
Yeah.
is,
Well,
yeah,
and yeah.
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 Uh,
And so that goes to this question of like the programmatic use of AI, right? For service delivery or for that's where it's so dangerous, right? Like I don't actually believe that AI models will come up with good ideas, quote unquote, to deliver, for example, sustainable sanitation solutions, because the information is because it is actually well cloistered, right? So you cannot. So, for example, the Gates Foundation is the biggest funder of sustainable sanitation in the world, right? General AI models cannot get into the foundation's database, right? So
they
when
have
you
their own,
ask it, right, but they have their own, they're proprietary, and you can't get in
yeah.
there. And so when you ask your Chat GPT design a sustainable sanitation solution, what's it pulling from? Right? Like it doesn't actually, I don't actually believe that there's enough
And the government was not going
domain.
to share it in public. Yes, it's so true because
Yeah,
actually
right.
this is totally proprietary data. No,
It's
it's not
and
that
so
easy.
and it's that A, it's not that easy, and B, the second danger is when I ask general AI models about help with my tax returns, right? There is a ton of information about the US tax system out there. And it's actually come up with really good suggestions, which my accountant then verified. I don't think the same is true in the sort of social sector space, one. And secondly, I don't think I think it's really dangerous when you use these models because you inadvertently can become a source of that data to the frontier model companies. And that's a real problem. I think they need our data more than we need them. And
Exactly.
so there's a lot of and there's a real risk now. Like imagine you are working with domestic violence victims, for example, right? And you use ChatGPT to come up with a solution. If you're not extremely careful on how you have configured your settings, that data, including about the people you're serving,
Yeah.
is all of a sudden discoverable by OpenAI and Anthropic. That's not okay. That's a very, very grave
That's
danger.
totally not okay. I totally agree with you. It's like not just sovereignty, it's a privacy of the data and actually how to layer them, what it should be in public and how to present it and how to keep it in terms of connecting the dots. It's like this is another structure that is not exist with them, and they are totally extortion. It's like extractive economy. They try to
Yeah.
extract as much as they can, and people are given it for free. And no matter it's like with consent, without the consent, is like no one reads disclaimers. So they have, as I mentioned yesterday with Holly, the problem with AI now is actually all the guardrails and all the restrictions is controlled actually by legal department, not by ethical or by what is right and what is wrong. And this is what make it really not useful. So all the guardrails, like I don't want to get sued from this area, I don't want to get sued from this parent, so put here, put there, but they're not helpful and they're not enough.
No. No, and it's insidious, right? So it's actually funny. Our editor in the book, she said, "Really, is this true?" I said, in a
Yeah,
so you're in a
Karen.
chat with Karen. She's like, I said something about like so I'm very careful on how I configure these systems, right? I have a
Yeah,
subscription for Claude. I've basically turned off all those settings that would make anything I do available for training, right? So in theory, I'm inside my sandbox, right, that I pay for.
yes.
Well, it turns out every time you have a chat, there's like a little thumbs up, thumbs down, right? We're so
Yes.
conditioned. Oh, thumbs up. Well done, little model. Well, it turns out the moment you give it a
You
thumbs
you
up,
click on them. Exactly.
you're overriding your settings
You
and you've
you
made that information available. And Karen was like, really? Is that true? And I'm like, yes. In fact, I asked Claude and it gave me the exact reference in the Claude, whatever they're calling that, not the manifesto, the constitution, and in their terms and conditions. It's so insidious because
exactly.
what's not to like about giving a little thumbs up? And now you've just released that chat into the
To
model
them.
for training. It's
I
it's
I
insidious. It makes me crazy.
I totally, and thank you for bringing this up, because actually this is the small tricks they do, the fact that they give it to you, and this obscure, or for me it's dark activities that break transparency, make me not just skeptical. It's like
100%.
I'll tell it all off. It's like,
100%.
why
Yeah.
can't you just explain something, and if I remove this one, remove this some, because I'm not doing it, but you make me like like a trip, like let's do it.
I mean,
So I can
listen,
get it.
no means no, right? Like, this is what I don't understand. Like, no means no.
No is
Like,
no.
I've told you, I
Exactly.
don't. It's like I've told you not to use my data for training ever. So it's almost like when it's like with gendered violence is what it is, right? It's
Yes.
like
No,
no means no, and my wearing a short skirt doesn't mean yes. It's still no.
it is still no. I totally agree with you on this one. Okay,
Yeah.
and this is actually will be totally apparent in when you mentioned the data waste problem. Many nonprofit are setting this for the gate, but you mentioned as well how did the Selco Foundation and Apurva.ai turn their data grade
Mm.
into wisdom engine, because now we made the closed one as gates. We have an open another solution like another nonprofit that they made the best of it.
Yeah, so and this is really important, right? Like there is so much hype and so much noise coming out of the United States. There are great models being built elsewhere in the world, right? Let's just say that. So Switzerland with their public AI model apparatus, China with all their open source models, right? And by the way, if you read the Chinese like data privacy provisions and the ethics provisions, they're a lot stronger than anything you will find in the US right now. And then we
Exactly.
have India, right? India, massive population, of course, very, very smart on data privacy and
Mathematical
control of
and
data,
structure. Yes.
you know, and wonderful engineers. And so there is so this outfit, Apurva AI, uh, I think is self-funded by a family office. So it has a more philanthropic background. They don't take venture, right? And so what they have done is, and I really highly recommend people look at it. So they have
Oh,
built
definitely.
basically a sort of a ring-fenced set of models that can be trained on an organization's data or across several organizations to make sense of their institutional knowledge. So it actually comes close to what I'm looking for, right? Like here is a 30-year-old organization. They have data and reports in all these different formats and all these legacy systems that nobody's maintaining anymore. And now can you train a data model on it? And then can you serve it up in ways that are useful? And it's phenomenal, right? The AI will, like in a meeting like we have, there's like an avatar, and Apurva shows up. The AI named herself. Apurva apparently is a very popular Indian girl's name. And here is Apurva sitting in a meeting saying, well, Astrid, this idea you have, well, we tried that 18 years ago, and here's what we discovered. Right? It's
So they made
phenomenal. And it can output into multiple languages that are not English. And right. So it's actually very, very useful for an organization
and
that
that's
is
a smart
onboarding
approach.
staff.
Yes, that's a smart approach to retrieve the information in a trained format. Yeah, this is really good.
Exactly.
Yes, I just added to the chat, but I am going to check them out as well. Yes, let's go. Let's focus on now on the data sovereignty and ethics. You mentioned the care principles. You advocate for the care principle, collective benefit, and authority to control, responsibility, and ethics, which are rooted in indigenous data sovereignty. Why should every social impact organization, even those not working with indigenous groups, adopt those protocols today? The care principles.
Yeah, I really highly recommend people look them up, right? Because they're sometimes contrasted with the FAIR principles, which is also a useful set of standards. But the CARE principles are deeply rooted in the idea that the only source of truth and authority about my data is me, right? And you should not ever be stealing anybody's data. And I think it's indigenous communities that understand this better than most. But it's true for all of us, right? Like, I am angry that OpenAI used my published data without my permission, right? And we're
Same.
now beginning to see some of these, and so it's not our peers and friends in indigenous communities are just more sensitized, I think, than most people around these issues, and that's why I take my cues from them. Because if you can develop AI in a way that is consistent with how indigenous people think about sovereignty and data ownership, then you're safe. That's why everybody should be adopting those principles. It's a maximum standard, not a minimal standard, right? So that's
Yes,
why I
because
like it. And it's also very relatable. It's like who owns the data about you? Well, you own your data. You are you.
yeah, I totally agree. The fact that and we see this with actually with social media when we started, who owns the data and who control and who can actually have the upper hand, who can even turn you down and even remove you. Is like if you want to get out, your data still is with them. Even if you cancel or
I
delete your
mean,
account, still with them.
M- Meta doesn't want to let you die. I mean, it's outrageous. Like they they're trying to hold on to your data after your death, and then maybe have an AI avatar like pretend to be Astrid after Astrid has died. I mean, it's outrageous,
Yes, and
right? And
I
actually,
find
with
it
social media, with social media, I think it's Jonathan Lanier who's a like a
Jiron
futurist
Lanier.
at
Yes,
yes, Jared,
Jiron
not
Lanier.
Jonathan, Jared, right?
Jaron. I
And
love him actually.
he he had a great statistic a few years ago, which is if we all got paid for the amount of value that our data is generating, right? Because they sell our data for marketing, I think the average American family would get something like $25,000 a year, right?
That's
But
that's
we
true
don't, we
actually.
don't, we don't get it, right? And so,
That is so
I mean,
true.
technologically, it's solvable how actually everybody could participate in this way, but that's not how these companies are built.
Yes, the problem with data for me is like I see is like you monetize everything what I'm doing in my life and not in my favor. And actually, you turn me to a slave for you or like a cog just to generate more money for you. Like I'm not an
Right.
object. And this is actually they make it totally not any human format. Like we all interact with each other, we all talk, we all share things. This is actually a bonding
Yeah.
feature for humans. But you take it and you make it totally for yourself, and you just monetize it. This is for me is totally unfair.
It's unfair, and we know that it's wrong, right? Like I think there's a and I'm actually reminded, back to the question about indigenous leadership on these matters. I remember years ago we took this is for a nonprofit organization I used to work for. We took our board of directors into British Columbia, and we were in outside Tofino, and there was an indigenous like business that takes you out on like nature tours and whatnot. And so we were in a canoe, several canoes, paddling across the sound to visit an island. And this young woman who was steering the canoe started singing a song. And it's her family's, her clan's canoe song. And our board chair blithely said, "Oh, what a pretty song. Will you teach it to us?" And you should have seen this young woman. She was like, course not. That's my canoe song. That is my family's canoe
Yeah,
song that gets passed on from
my blood.
oldest daughter to oldest daughter. You cannot have it. You know, it's like, and it's immediately like people understand this. Like there are things you just can't have. It's mine. It's taboo. It's deeply embedded in my culture. But like what we have let ourselves be turned into these sources of attention data for business models that don't even reward us properly for the use of it.
Yeah, that. the current playbook is not fair. Actually, the capitalism. I'm not against capitalism, but it's done with in a way totally is like it's a psychopath who's running it, who wrote it. It's like it's just one sided. Yeah. My current question for you is: you mentioned the laundering bias. You cite Virginia EU Bank's idea that EU laundered human bias into algorithmic objectivity. How could a neutral AI grant writing tool accidentally reinforce the preference of institutional funders and erase a nonprofit's unique voice?
Oh man, how much time do we have? I mean,
Yes. So if you have an
you know,
example, what
I think
happened, just to simplify it, because actually it's a very important point. How people manipulate and use and abuse and overuse of the things that turn it to pivot to the wrong direction. It started good and it will end in the wrong direction.
you know, it's actually the example that's like abstract now, right? Like, what's that new tool they launched out that is supposed to help you tell whether somebody used AI to
Panagram.
wrote their
Panagram.
posts on Substack? Panagram,
Panagram.
right? And as Karen and others in the She Writes AI community have pointed out, it's a black box. Like, you and I don't know how this tool works. Well, you and I are also not native English speakers. Right?
Yeah.
Like, when I write English, the way I learned how to write English in Germany about a million years ago, I use a lot of M dashes. I just do, right? I also use the Oxford comma because that's how I learned how to write English. There's a high chance that this Substack tool would look at my posts that I have authored painstakingly and say that was probably written by AI. And so that's this algorithmic bias, right? Because it's that tool is likely trained on dominant English speaking and has sort of, embedded the idea that M dashes are automatically machine generated. And in the
That's true.
same way, you could see, right? I mean, I have seen some tools that are now being put out, to help people write funding proposals, for example. And you could say that, I can easily, and I haven't scrutinized them and like, interrogated them deeply, but you can just imagine that there's sort of a accepted best practice in philanthropy, right, on how we write funding proposals. And it might all be predicated on, oh, yeah, I mean, it's all predicated on these logic models and theories of change and how you have to have measurement exactly for how everything that you do has the desired outcome. When most practitioners working on the literal frontiers of systems change know that nothing is linear anymore. It's all
Yeah.
chaotic. It's all relational. It doesn't fit into these tidy boxes of logic models. And so, yes, in exactly that way, right? Like your AI assisted fundraising helper actually perpetuates the problem, the mindset problem of how we think the world works.
Actually, to add it for the panagram, my problem with it is like most people, we are not just advocating everyone to use AI. Like sometimes you will get an idea and you're going actually to speak to it and you're trying to convert it into notes. So now you have this note, it's actually written, it's your voice, but it's still written by it because most people will speak now. And on top of that is like one of the things I read panagram classifiers, and actually this classifier is to detect which model. So they're trained on the model technique, not on writing technique. So they will tell you this is ChatGPT, this is actually close to Mistral, this is Grok, this is Gemini, but is they lack the originality. If it's your idea, they're just making on the style of writing, and it's missing the whole point because writing is not the style. Style is one way, but the idea, the
Mhm.
origin, how you present them, the metaphor, all what you put in it is totally neglected.
Yeah.
So the score is it's like how to scale the models, which one is used more. And for me, and I tell them if it's for visibility, like Google has a classifier for visibility GEO, and actually, this one, they go crawl your article, and if it has originality or an idea, they put it on top. So at least they read and they get a meaning of it. So this is another tool that it's more useful. Use it. If it give you a higher score, read the article. If not, don't read the article.
Great.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, AI detector did not work in university and pleasure and did not never stop plagiarism, and it will not stop plagiarism because there will always be way. And it's contradicted with LLM frontiers that say now in 1 year you are not going to be able to discern if it's AI written or if it's a human written. They are so they cannot keep up. So the scoring itself is like gating, and it's going to create kind of shame. And people like, if he have ADHD or if he have an accent or if he has any barrier or if he's an introvert, we are going to exclude them out. We are going to totally ostracize them because we are not welcome. And this is not it's not about express of freedom of speech, but let them present themselves, agree with them, and accept differences. Why we should regress to one image for everyone? This is how we should talk. This is how we should publish. This is how we should. This is really bad. It diminishes
Yeah.
our actually ability to grow. Yes.
100%. Mhm.
Yes. You mentioned in your chapter again, we are being digressive because there is a lot of a good point to discuss, but actually, you mentioned placeless universalism. You critique placeless universalism of AI models trained primarily on English-speaking Western data, how to project like Salomon Vision in Canada or Bayamo in Ghana proves that AI only works for good when it is self-authored by the community itself.
I'm sorry, can you state your question there? I'm not sure I heard the question.
The question when you mentioned the Salomon vision, that it's really important
Yeah.
to have authorship, that the community will handle
Right.
the AI project better than it's controlled or centralized by another entity that doesn't know anything about the community, the culture, the project itself.
Right. So I think in general, the contrast I'm drawing is, with sort
Canada
of
and Ghana.
artificial general and with the sort of general idea of like the AGI type idea, right? It's sort of one size fits all. And like we talked about, if you don't know the context, or if you are in a domain like salmon management or salmon restoration in the case of salmon vision, or you're in regenerative ag in sub-Saharan Africa, there's a good chance that the general models don't actually have the depth of the field knowledge that you really want. One, and secondly, how it's used should be driven by the problem you're trying to solve, not by what some guy in Silicon Valley thinks about salmon management, right? And so, what's interesting about these examples is, salmon vision uh, basically allows, First Nations in Canada and other Indigenous communities to take real time data from salmon returning in their streams and make basically real-time management decisions, whereas management of salmon traditionally works with these very long lag times from when a count, typically a plane flyover, has been done to when some government biologist has interpreted the data to then feed back into the management cycle. And so it has this very real effect of being able to do in-season management. And it also shifts the power balance away from central governments that are colonizer governments in Canada, right? Let's just repeat
Yes.
that. It's a colonizer, it's a colonial power structure, and gives the power back, returns power of decision making to First Nations directly, who can then, in a second stage, actually band together and make sense of the data that they're seeing across multiple streams. So it's a very elegant combination of traditional ecological knowledge, traditional like TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, and modern like computer vision and AI systems. And in the case of Viamo in Ghana, it's this really clever interface that uses not a smartphone but a dumb phone, right? Because large majority of the world doesn't even have access, right, to
Internet.
iPhones yet, or anything, or internet for that matter, right? And so here you can in your native local language interact with a system that is constrained. It's a constrained general model that is fed expert data, and you just converse with it in your native language and get weather information and growing information back. And it meets the agriculturalist where they're at. right? Like it meets them literally in the field, in the plot where they're growing food for their family, and can be helpful to them in a way that if some extension agent had to drive out to them, would probably take longer and not be as immediate. And so I use these as examples in my chapter to say, these contemporary technologies, including AI, can be incredibly helpful for solving real problems in these frontier settings.
Yeah, if we just not limit it and keep it open to to share the wisdoms of others, because these generations or even these people or culture have been existed and survived on certain wisdom that is still work till now. There is no need to reinvent the wheel, and whatever their system is, outdated or new or even obscure, it works, and we just need to adopt it and open up to them, especially within a small culture
Yeah.
and rural area. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually an interesting question in the chat. Do you see that from Caroline, who asks
Um,
how to get the tacit knowledge or intuitive knowledge from people's heads and put them into a tool that can help
yes.
craft the better path to systems change? So, if I can riff on that for a minute, I mean, that's sort of the next step here, right? Like all the examples that we're talking about. I don't think Viamo is set up to now. That would be, I think, the next phase would be to say, you're talking to the farmer's on the phone with the AI. It would be interesting then to have that system ask them, what have you been observing? Like, what do you noticed? Right. So, for example, in a project that we're supporting with my tech company in the Caribbean, uh, we're working with a Mexican nonprofit that is connecting fishers with an app on their phones. And what we observed is people were sharing information about, I think it was the softness in the shell of lobsters that they were observing. And it was somebody from the East Coast. If you imagine the map of Mexico, it's a very large country. And there was somebody from the East Coast asked the question, and somebody from like 2,000 miles away from the West Coast had an answer based on their observations of the environment.
Yeah.
And so in this case, it was inside an app, like having the chat ability um, helped sort of get the information into the system, right? That is basically sharing this experiential or tacit or intuitive knowledge. And so you can imagine ways to feed that into models that are ideally, of course, locally owned and governed, because again, you want to be careful that kind of knowledge doesn't leak into the extractive systems, right? But
That's
you
true.
could imagine using
Like,
a voice-based, for example, mechanism to solicit that information, and then use it to actually, as part of the training parameters of a model, to say, well, here are some things that we have known for generations over the millennia.
this is actually an important point again to include, actually, like their observation. She might not be having a PhD in water or in fisheries, but she can draw actually pattern recognition of something that will be highly useful to make a better decision for other
Yeah,
colleagues. Yes, that's so true.
yeah.
You mentioned again in your chapter the hidden victim of AI. You mentioned AI violence, the quiet therapeutic harm caused by system optimized for their own goals. Can you explain that or give us an example?
Yeah,
There is
I
a lot.
mean, there's a lot. Again, how much time do we have? I mean, it's a lot, right? Like, I mean, we've been sold this idea that this technology exists somewhere in the cloud, right? And it doesn't, right? There are two very real harms, right? There are the environmental harms that come from the location of data centers. And here, right here in my home state of Oregon, like we're now seeing data centers being located in extremely water stressed parts of the state, right? And so it's not you or me, right? Like it's people who live in those communities who are paying the price of their electricity going up or their water being depleted. And then there is this whole really sordid part of, you know, making sense of the training of the data that go into these models, where people are sitting typically in global majority countries and are annotating just a constant stream of data and are witnessing just horrific violence and abusive content, and just like in social media, right? Like the content moderators on Facebook and other social media platforms are underpaid, sort of wage workers somewhere in Kenya and India and where have you, who we don't see, right? They're invisible to us. Like the embodied labor
Yeah.
of what makes these tools usable is
Ghost
largely
labor.
invisible, right?
Totally
And it's
ghost
ghost
labor.
labor. Yeah.
Yeah, so Celeste Garcia, she wrote her chapter based on this one. Actually, we need to make sure that they are credited for whatever they've done, because some of them, they were totally traumatized from the picture and from all the labeling service they did, and they left totally muted and in silence in the dark.
Yeah.
But I think there is two lawsuit case. One, I think, from it's Sama, I think from Philippines, and one is from India. Now they are coming. Um, they're not gonna go anywhere, but it's like at least they stand up for themselves, which is we need to support that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that irritates me about that is, right, like we know this from other industries. Right?
Yeah.
We know this from like whether it's conflict diamonds or it's the garment industry. We know there is labor abuse
Food,
in
yeah.
so many of our contemporary industries. And so here's a new industry, a new technology, and we act surprised and we act like this wasn't predictable, you know. I mean,
No.
that's why it's irritating to see how quickly these technologies are allowed to move. I mean, if all we had done was, created, I mean, even the ISO, right, the international standards, like any standard regime would have been helpful to put on the development of new technology products.
It's true.
Or in Germany we have the TÜV, right? Like this public agency that tests every product that hits a market. Like, how is this not already part of how we just do the business of innovation? That products have to be tested before they're deemed safe in the market, and we have to understand who's making them and how and under what conditions.
Sì, chercher la money, huh? It's like it's all where the money
Yeah.
land. It's who run the money, and this is actually drive it. This is the problem that the current playbook it's not about the technology. The technology adopted a playbook that is rotten, that is bad, that it's broken, and we did not stop it.
Right.
So it's not their fault, but the problem AI amplified and put a spotlight on the real problem, and now we blame AI. No, AI just show it up, bring it to the surface, and it's
Yeah.
take it or leave it, as we say it. And it's bad.
It's
This is bad.
yeah, it's the latest iteration of, a fundamental design flaw of this late
Yeah.
stage capitalism that we live in. And I mean the distinction, I mean the point I'm trying to make in my chapter is that in the extreme, right? Like you could be like, say for example, if you're an organization that works on whatever, job opportunities and skill building for women and girls in sub-Saharan Africa, and you're trying to do it in all the best ways possible, right? And ironically, by using AI, you may actually be reinforcing a really abusive system that they're currently in, or that they could potentially get funneled into. And so that's, I think, the tension that is very alive for nonprofit organizations in particular. Are you actually using tools that inadvertently harm some of the populations that you're serving? I think it's also a general ethical problem for any consumer of AI, right? Just like I worry about where the clothes come from that I wear, and if they're produced with child labor or what have you. As a consumer, I need to be making very careful ethical choices about which tools I'm using,
Conscious.
etc. But I think it's particularly it's heightened. I think that duty of care, I think, is heightened for nonprofit
Yeah.
and social change organizations.
Inclusion actually was not included in any of AI model structure, because they just want to attract on and make it a hype. And we both know that the reality is most of and you mentioned 84% of the world population have not used AI, despite the hype, despite they say we generate income, and I keep saying generating income is not profit. They're just making it an image, like a magic wand, that like use us and we will get this and you will get that. And this is not true. And people just don't verify, because we don't, I always believe we don't need an AI detector. We need a verifiable detector to say this is true or not true. But this doesn't exist. They're not gonna make it, because there is always lies or type. I'm not gonna say lies. There is lots of lies, but marketing technique that is totally misleading to the reality, and make people make their own choice because you give them the wrong information, and totally
Right.
to push them toward a yes for you. Okay,
Right.
you mentioned a call to action: take a beat. This is your final advice to the social change industry, is to take a beat and not fall for the hype. If a founder is a pressure a nonprofit leader to innovate with AI right now, what is the first question that leader should ask, and why?
I think why is the question they should ask, you know. I mean, I think people are getting a lot of pressure, and to sort of show up in a particular way, right? Like if you're the executive director of a nonprofit organization, you're sort of, you know, pressured to look relevant, sound relevant, feel relevant. And there's this excitement about AI, but for all the reasons that we discussed, you know, if you haven't taken a moment, and actually Jim Fruchterman has a nice graphic that I reference in my chapter. Should I use AI for this? I recommend people Google it. It's a great graphic, and it's like this little pirate map flowchart
Mm.
to help you aid your decision making. And basically, the upshot is, unless you have internal competency, if you have disposable funding to run an experiment, and or if you can afford either the financial hit or the reputation hit when things go sideways, just don't do it. You know, and that moment of like just pausing and saying, but why should I chase this? Like, the problems we are trying to solve tend to be very deeply entrenched and systemic, and they're made worse by the polycrisis. And this
Yes.
technology that comes out of this very limited imagination of Silicon Valley is not going to be the panacea. It's just not. Right? I mean, the people who annihilated USAID, these 23-year-old idiots, right? That Doge and Elon Musk, they don't even understand how the humanitarian sector works. And so, why would we believe people like that to have come up with something that's actually useful for those of us who are working on real solutions to very real problems? And so that's why the beat is to say, like, take a minute and ask why, and push back on anybody who's trying to hype this for you and push you
It is
into adoption that you're not ready for.
when it comes to AI adoption, because actually it's funded by a hype of a fear. Like if you are not AI adoption, then you are actually behind and you're gonna be totally out. There is no yes, you have to get it in full adoption and half of adoption. It's like what you need in your business. This is what you need
Mhm.
to actually analyze and reach a point. What is actually the current status of your business? Where is your problems that you need acceleration, or where is the point that you need efficiency? And you tackle exact point. Is it efficiency problem? Is it actually lack of team or lack of ideas or lack of generative things you need? It's like you need to have a perfect diagnosis. Like you do a surgical diagnosis to your business, and your vision is like any strategy, and you see what you want. And if they are small point or small chains, make the AI do
Yeah.
only the small chains. Do not reinvent the wheels. It is
Yeah,
so true. It
it's
is like
small change, and like, I mean, there are so many of those where it can be very useful. I mean, we started out talking about transcription and translation, and it's like, yes, by all means, right? Like there are some
it is true.
there's some
Yes,
productivity tools where it can be helpful, or if it helps you, like my Claude research assistant, very helpful. Just like I would hire a graduate student, and those things, I'm not anti AI blanketly, right?
no
I'm just
one.
saying,
No,
just be a very careful consumer, and don't let yourself be bullied, especially by funders, into adoption in a space, in a programmatic area where we know the complexity likely outpaces what what the models can even understand. Back to our discussion about Watson, right? Like
Yes.
in a complex setting, a model, a statistical model that is trying to be inductive based on prior experience. It's just basic statistics. It's not likely to come up with something brilliantly new.
And actually taking responsibility. You know that Gemini, despite that they are not the best model in performance wise, they are in number 30 in adoption. And I believe they are going to win the race simply because they offer stability. It's like we give you a stability. It's like, and we are not updating too much. And when we update, we make it minimal so you can easily grasp it. We don't overwhelm you, like we don't shoot like Anthropic or OpenAI
Well,
shooting in new models.
I think that's a very good observation. I think and one thing, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I generally feel the AI tools that are embedded in existing products, like in the Google Suite or in Notion, they do a really good job. Like I used Notion
They
AI
serve
the
the
other day.
purpose. Yes,
Yeah, they serve a purpose, and they're sort of tuned to the context, right? So I used Notion AI the other day to expand our like a database driven structure for project management, and it came up with a really good strategy and build for like I don't know what I needed, objectives and key results or something boring. And I was like, this is great. It understands the context, right? It's already tuned to this way of building things in Notion, and it did a great job. Um, and it saved me a lot of time. Right?
exactly. It's not
But
wearing different
that's where they
hats.
can be very
Yes,
yeah, that's
we are
where
not wearing different
that's where
hats.
it's not gonna try it's not pretending to be the be all and end all for everything, right? And that's where I think people like that distinction between sort of AGI or these generalized models and the specialist models is really important for people.
It is true, but there is business is not one man show as well as like you cannot do ask one person to do everything. You will need to
Right.
delegate, like we used to delegate to team or delegate the task to the capability of people. We need to understand that not an open and new session, but it's like the AI can only do certain tasks if you are precise, and it will be much better efficient if you are concise to limit it so he can focus on something small. The larger the task you give him, the more hallucination, the more error you are going to receive. Because it's not
Yeah.
supposed to be this magic is like, okay, voila. He's not a genie in the bottle that is like, just say the word and I will do it for you. And this iteration actually for some people is wasting their time and actually getting them in a loop that they don't want to get into it. Because this kind of loop is like gets you astray and sometimes and get you out of your point and they make you lots of noises and voices in your head. And it's sometimes it's not useful if you need to be highly determined, especially when you use with AI systems that is 100% deterministic.
There's that, right? Like people,
Yes,
I think people don't understand enough of the science behind it, right? And so then you
yes, the
see that
mathematical
they sort of
behind it.
gets they, it's just
Yes.
math, and it's not particularly interesting math. It's statistics.
It's
One of my funniest interactions with Claude is it'll say something to me like, "Oh, well, we've been discussing this for the last hour," and I'll go, "Really? Has it been an hour? How do you know?" And it goes, "Well, actually, I don't know. I was using a figure of speech because it doesn't even have a damn clock. It doesn't even have the capability to clock its own runtime."
to runtime.
So,
It's like
and it's just like these very basic design features, right? Because of the nature of the model that it is, and I have a lot of fun with it. But it's like most people, I don't think, understand how the science behind these models actually works.
when I ask Claude to make a very technical task, I tell first of all, to not waste my token. I want you to focus. Do this exactly. The input here it is, the data, and here's the output desired. No mistakes. Otherwise, I'm changing the model. And he will give you the answer. It's like I really kind of was scared. He's like, do not waste my token because it's like he's gonna give you sometimes half job done and keep asking stupid questions. Like I already said what I want to happen And this kind of conversational, it's like, I don't want this conversation. It's
That's
like,
right.
just focus and give me this. And the more you limit, it can really helpful if you know what you want. But the problem
Yes.
is, like, most people are, they doesn't know. It's like, inspire me, do this, think of this. No, I was like, it's like, I know that it might be a stepping stone for them to help them grow
Yeah.
and get an idea for themselves. But it's like AI will be much, much useful tool to those who know what they want. It will take you from point A to B faster. But if you don't know where you want, you're gonna go get in a nice ride. It's gonna be talkative. It's gonna be really friendly with you. He will love you. He will be your sexual fantasy, whatever imagination you want it to be, and that's it. It's like, tell him
Yeah.
what you want it to do, but it's, for me, it's just a tool, and it will take me from point A to B, and these points needs to be defined by me.
That's right. Yeah. Appreciate that. Yeah. That's a that's a really good observation. Love it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Again, if you roughly treat it like a graduate student, I find like the persona I take with it is like, I'm teaching you more than you're teaching me, and here are the parameters inside of which I want you to operate. Yeah.
yes, from your experience, what do you think that missing, or what is needed for people to be totally conscious in using AI as a system thinking? Is like, if this is going to be to wrap up your chapter and to give, like, a tip for readers on how the best way, or a framework. There is no right or wrong, but it's like, a guidelines to avoid pitfall, or this is going to be efficient, or how to consider or open up.
Boy, that's a big question, isn't it? I mean, we covered a lot of ground, right, in terms of using AI to find solutions to sort of the wicked problems that we're facing today. And so I think one thing I find helpful is to treat. So my favorite use is to have a project in Claude that I'm training on a particular persona, right? So I was talking about my research assistant, right? My research assistant who functions like a well-informed graduate student from an institution like UC Berkeley, where I got my PhD. And then I find I get I can ask it different things, right? Like I can have a curiosity about any topic, but it will basically inhabit that persona. Um, and so figuring out like who is the persona you want, and how can you constrain that persona. And I've actually gone so far as to say, um, to ask Claude to help me improve the project level prompt. Like, people don't understand that you can actually work with the tool, with the model, to tighten the constraint, right? Like, so just like you were saying, go from A to B, don't dawdle, don't talk to me, just do the job. There are ways in which you could do that at the project level and constrain it in this interesting way. And it's a different persona from a project where I'm basically saying, you're my tax advisor. Like, you understand the latest and greatest in all the contemporary, the current year tax rules here in the US. So that idea of like understanding what persona the model represents, and they're not the same. So I try to keep them separate. I guess is what I'm backing into an answer to your question, which is like, keep the personas and the uses of AI separate enough in whatever tools you're using, instead of like trying this one size fits all.
It is actually a good point. My problem with Cloud is, like, for people with us, is like, I charge client, for example, per token. It's like, I do my strategy, my consulting service, but it's like there is a tokens usage. So this is why I don't want the AI. Is like, I cannot be friendly with it, because I feel guilty that I'm going to charge. It's going to increase, and it's, for me, it's not ethical. It's like, if the conversational is not
Um,
needed,
that's interesting. Well, I think
it's like,
that's actually maybe another
this
answer
is
to
why
your
I cut it
question, right?
short. It's like, I cut it short,
Yeah,
I limit
so
it.
so that's yeah, that's interesting, right? Because I think having a personal AI policy is another thing that I encourage people to do. I don't do that in the chapter, But I wrote a Substack on this. I think having a personal, like actually sitting with yourself and say, what actually matters to me? Like, what can I
Yeah.
hold and what can I actively manage for, right? So your token usage is something that you're actively managing for. And for me, it's just like, I'm just going to fold that into my consulting fees. Like, I'm not going to worry about it too much on a case by case basis. But what I am doing is, like, I have an active conversation with every client about what their AI usage is. And then I'm actually doing like a little bit of a training cycle on, well, here's how we're going to work together, and here's what you can expect from me, and here's how that might show up in like interim products, for example. So I think having a very clear and explicit understanding of how and why you use AI, and I think that's especially important at the organizational level. Like, I am shocked how few organizations have actually developed an AI policy. And meanwhile, everybody on their staff is using it in some completely, inconsistent, unsupervised, potentially problematic way. It's just like, folks, I think that's
And
probably the
yeah.
biggest call to action is like you have to have sat with it and have formed an opinion about how you want to manage it as an organization.
It's so true. And actually, people doesn't understand that when it comes to business, economics has the final words. So you need to understand if AI eventually is gonna its utility. So it's another bell. It's like I don't care if it's magical or whatever. So it's going to be. I don't want it to end up as a luxury to certain people to use it and not use it. But if you know how to be consciously use it, because it is not cost agnostic. It's like business
Right.
is cost aware, but all tech is cost agnostic. They're just using it, and the billing. It's totally unfair if you are going to use it and you want to be fair with your customer. You want to give them a good service. You don't want to bear it on your own, and you don't want to burden them on the shoulder. So to have it
Right.
for the costing perspective is is actually negligible by many, and this is why you will see skyrocketing bills. And no wonder Amazon
Yeah.
is cutting some usage, and they are limiting. Do not use more than this token for every employee now, because it doesn't want to see the bill. They are going to close it because it's going to actually to get you. It can really bankrupt you. So is
Yeah.
this usage of AI is like this beauty and put a smile on your face can put you actually
Mhm.
in bankruptcy. So to be when you have it for yourself as a personal, be open as much, be generous with yourself. But when you put it as in one line in your bills, you need to be not ethical, to be honest and transparent. It's
Yeah.
like if the client wants more iteration, add more tokens, but it's like you have to be transparent, and this transparency layer needs to be boxed or in a sandbox on its own.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I think explicitly and being explicit and transparent and being including with yourself, starting with yourself and your
Yeah.
own usage, right? And then how to use it as an organization, and then how do you use it in client or other transactions is sort of the next step that people will want to go through.
Yes, that's so true. Dr. Astrid, is like we almost covered all your chapter, but it's like is there any point you would like to mention or discuss before we wrap up the chapter and this chat to everyone?
No, I mean, I think I really appreciate you doing this. For all the authors of
Yeah.
this next book that's
No,
coming
I
out
I
this
I
fall.
enjoy to
And
learn and hear a different opinion.
no,
This is
it's
great.
great. I think it's wonderful, and I think there are ways. One thing I always want to say to people is, it is so easy when you listen to the hype to feel like you're missing out or you're stupid, and I'm like, no, trust your gut. Right? If something seems funny about this, if this seems a bit too good to be true, if you're seeing too many people hustling you to sort of trying to tell
To
you that you
push
need
you.
to pay them lots of money to become AI proficient, just don't believe the hype, right? And trust your gut in what you how you may want to experiment with it, right? Like, my husband is a filmmaker, and he's been enjoying using a lot of the tools coming out of China, actually, to put together these
Like
like short
graphics and
little political
motion.
satire bits, and he's having a ball with it. He's really enjoying it, but he also knows his trade and his craft, right? And so I don't want to diminish
No, but
people's sort
it's
of
gonna play its part.
you
And
know
it's like one shot
yeah
or two
eh,
shots. It would
yeah, like
simplify.
Yeah, and don't like. I mean, I think not taking it so seriously, right? Like I really have fun with like telling AI to generate images for my Substack posts, and it's just funny. Like it just puts a smile on my face. And so I think that idea of like trust your gut and just follow your curiosity and play with these things and see, what works for you in terms of the decisions that you're holding and that you're managing for in how you interact with this new technology.
And I'm going to add on this actually, check your tolerance, what you can tolerate
Mhm,
as a change in your life
mhm.
and what you cannot, and reject whatever you cannot because it is not here. Nothing, you should never invite anything in your life that stress you or that is causing an anxiety. If you are not okay, take baby steps into adoption of whatever action or decision in your life. It's like
Yeah,
check your tolerance because there is nothing like what I can handle is not what you can handle. What I can comprehend is not the way you comprehend it. Sometimes I take it as offensive. Sometimes you take it as this. Don't follow. We are not supposed to follow. We are supposed to help each other move with our pace. So trust your gut,
that's
as
right.
you mentioned, and actually, this is the best advice. And there is no right or wrong, and there is no late or you are front. It's one life, and take it
No,
on your own. Yes, walk your walk,
that's
live your life.
well put.
You don't have, yeah, there is no race. It's not a race
There's no
to
race.
finish.
It's not a race.
Yes, there is no
No,
race to finish,
living
and there
living
is no
living living
medals.
life is not a race.
Yes, and
No
there is no
medals. No,
medal to earn. Just enjoy, relax,
I
and
like that.
yes, enjoy life.
Like that.
Yes, Dr. Astrid,
Love it.
thank you so much for your time
Thank
and
you. This is
for
great.
sharing your experience and your work. Your chapter is great, and I encourage everyone to join She Community. And AI Everywhere is going to be on Amazon shortly, so it will be ready. And if anyone would like actually to proofread or to do for any chapter, please reach out to Karen Smiley. And we are receiving volunteers to proofread. Thank you so much, and wait for the book. Thank you, Doc.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, all.
Have a
Bye.
good day. Have a good
You
day.
too.
You too. Bye.